Hello and welcome to the Monday edition of the Post-Gazette Penguins podcast. I'm your host, King Jemison, joined by my colleague, Jason Mackey, who just witnessed the Pens extend their winning streak to a season-long 5 games over Detroit and Columbus this weekend, both of those games on the road. And Jason, that had to be the biggest and best thing that happened in Pittsburgh sports this weekend, right?
Yeah. Well, did anything else happen? I mean, that was the big hubbub. True story. In the media room, talking to Aaron Portzline from the Athletic in Columbus, and Aaron's a great friend of mine. And he's like, "You ready for the big match today?" I said, "It's all anybody in Pittsburgh's talking about, man. Penguins and Blue Jackets." So, I mean, it was a heck of an undercard, King. I know the football game was nuts last night, but the hockey game wasn't bad either.
For those who paid attention to both, it was a absolutely sublime Pittsburgh sports day because that was one of the more exciting Penguins wins of the season, and probably the most exciting Steelers win in many years. We're going to focus on the Penguins side of that and recap some of the weekend's games, and also talk more in general about what has gone right for this suddenly unstoppable team. They've won all 5 games since the holiday break. We've been splitting time at these games and have thoughts on sort of what they're building and what it means moving forward. But first, we want to let you know that this show is presented by FanDuel, where you can bet on all the NHL action. We got some daily puck drop specials for tonight's 5-game slate. You can bet on the highest scoring of those 5 games at FanDuel. Anaheim at Washington is the favorite at plus 300, and that's always a good bet because the Ducks are a top 10 scoring team in the NHL, but also have given up the most goals. So, you can expect them to be among the most high-scoring games anytime they play. I think it also bears mentioning that the Penguins have moved to plus 210 to make the playoffs, according to FanDuel, and they were at more than plus 300 for a while. So the sportsbook's starting to give them a little more respect with this winning streak. They're now in the top wild card spot in the East and tied for 3rd in the Metro Division with the Flyers. So, Jason, let's first talk about those 2 games over the weekend in Detroit and Columbus. What stood out to you about the way the Penguins were able to win 2 very different contests?
Yeah, it's hard to pick one thing, King. I mean, my mind, when I think about this weekend, and I was thinking about it a lot driving back from Columbus last night, I think I'm hung up on the Detroit game more so than the Columbus game. Like, that defensive effort was so good and such a statement made. It's nothing against the comeback against Columbus, but I almost chalk that up to the Penguins play well in that building. Sidney Crosby tortures the Blue Jackets. I don't think the Columbus Blue Jackets are a very good team, although I know they beat Buffalo the day before and they've been playing pretty well. What they showed to me, what they're capable of doing against Detroit, I was so impressed by that. I was even second guessing myself. Like, a lot of us were kind of down on, what Dan Muse was doing, the direction of this team. Man, since the Christmas break, in how they have played stylistically, defensively, structurally, all this stuff, man, it's been so much better. I mean, he's obviously part of it. The players have to execute it, but I think the Detroit game stands out. What about you?
That Detroit game was reminiscent of the opener in New York.
Yeah.
In which they completely shut down the Rangers, gave them nothing. You get an early lead, and then you just play incredibly responsible hockey from that point forward. I mean, the ABC broadcast was pointing this out. The Red Wings couldn't get through the neutral zone. They could not get into the pen zone. And this is a team that we've talked about, even when they're winning, the blue line has been a problem. Their defense has been a problem. Giving up easy chances has been a huge problem. And that was just not the case. And that was the first game of their winning streak in which they weren't going up against a team that had played the night before when they'd had a day off. So I think it sort of validated what we'd been seeing, which was that they were playing very well. And that was just a different type of effort. And then if you go to that Columbus
period, King, let me just, before you finish the Detroit thing, and in the third period, how they played, like, they didn't sit back. They weren't passive. Like, they still played with the puck. They played with speed. They played with urgency. They just didn't play with stupidity.
No.
They found that line.
If they can maintain that line, it's going to be a lot more fun 2026 winter here in Pittsburgh than we were thinking. And then the Columbus game, I mean, you have to talk about a comeback from down 4-1. When they go down 4-1 early in the second period. Did you think that a comeback seemed possible, or did they seem like they were sort of out of the game at that point?
I thought they were done. They were flat midway through the second. I don't think there was a lot of belief. And you know what changed things, King? And this is something several guys in that dressing room said yesterday. Noel Acciari's goal late in the second period, and we can get into this later in the pod, but that fourth line, to me, that's one of the big ingredients fueling this thing since Blake Lizotte came back. But Noel Acciari scores, and for whatever reason, maybe it's that line, maybe it's you go into the third period, you're only down 2, feels like a game. Like, I know they were putting a lot of pucks on Jet Greaves. They weren't all quality opportunities. You weren't sitting there thinking, oh, any minute now. Like, it almost felt a little bit empty. And then Noel Acciari scores, and it was a different vibe entering the third period. Like, you almost felt like if they can push and not give up a goal in the process, we might have something here. And then sure enough, Tommy Novak scores on the power play. They're in business. I think Columbus got a little skittish at that point, but it started with Noel Acciari's goal.
Yeah, and this is at least the second time this season the Penguins have come back from a multi-goal deficit against Columbus. I know they did that in the other road game the day after Thanksgiving as well. So This is a Blue Jackets team that, like the Pens, has some history when taking a lead, and I think the Penguins took advantage of that. But it almost felt like they should have won the game in regulation with the way they played in the third period. They were getting all of the shots. They rattled the post a couple times. It felt like, did they miss their opportunity to tie this game with how well they were playing? Ricard Raquel made sure they didn't. And I think the fact that they were able to carry play when they pulled the goalie and played with the empty net, that was encouraging as well, because I think we've seen them do that and then generate nothing off it except giving up an empty netter. And instead, I think they were quite solid.
King, is this team okay in overtime now? Like, it's been a couple 6-on-5 situations, overtime, shootout, like all this stuff that has gone awry for them lately has gone well.
Truly. I mean, they've won 3 straight in overtime. And that started earlier. Well, it started before the break with a shootout victory over Montreal. I think that was huge for Artie Shilov's confidence. We've seen him carry that over after the holiday break. And then Kris Letang's game winner in his 1200th game on Thursday against Detroit. That was just a feel-good moment. And I asked Dan Muse afterwards if he thought anything had changed about overtime for them. And he said, not really. Like, basically, they were just sort of getting the results. And honestly, that overtime, they didn't even play long enough to really see how they were doing in overtime. This overtime against Columbus, I would say, was a marker that they are much more comfortable in 3-on-3 play now, because they were getting the chances and not giving them up. And, an excellent change for Crosby leads to a pretty easy opportunity for him to end the game. And I think put himself in some pretty unique history in terms of the overtime results.
Yeah. And to do it against a team that he loves scoring against. It's funny. True story. I don't think Rust will mind me sharing this one, but so back in that original one you mentioned, it was like November, I want to say, scored in Columbus. And I asked Rust something about, Sid loving to score here or whatever. And the next game, I forget, he scored somewhere. It was Philly. And then I asked Rust the same question, and we sort of laughed about it. And so I see Rusty in the dressing room last night, and he goes, "Yep, he still loves scoring here." Sort of like busted my chops a little bit, but it was right. It was perfect. Like, he does whatever it is, Blue Jackets, Flyers. And yeah, so the overtime thing. But anyway, I got off on a tangent, but the late game stuff, man, that's been an encouraging part of them coming out of the break since the Canadiens game, like you're talking about. Artie Shilovs, I think, has found some stuff. He found some stuff. Was not a good first period, I don't think, for anybody yesterday, but credit to Shilovs, credit to the Penguins. He pivoted nicely, and he was really good the rest of the game. So just been some impressive resilience from this group that, we did not see a lot of in December, frankly, and it's coming around again.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Resilience was something I wanted to talk about as a main ingredient of this winning streak, and that's what we're going to talk about next. But first, let's take a very, very quick break. So welcome back to the Post-Gazette Penguins podcast. I'm your host, King Jemison, joined by Jason Mackey. We recap the games in Detroit and Columbus over the weekend in our first segment. Now let's talk about this winning streak in general. It has stretched to a season-long 5 games. It's put the Penguins back in the playoff picture. They'd be tied for third in the Metro Division and in the top wildcard spot if the playoffs started today. Jason, what stands out to you as some of the biggest reasons behind this team's incredible turnaround after the holiday break?
It's Blake Lizotte, right? I mean, that's the reason. It's Blake Lizotte. They don't lose with Blake Lizotte in the lineup. I'm trying to find their record with Blake Lizotte in the lineup. Do you have it handy?
Yeah, yes, because
19-7-6, I believe.
You put it in your story last night, and I was like, wow, I hadn't thought about that. And that means they're 1-5-3 without him, which was all in that stretch right around the holiday break. He missed most of their stretch of losing 9 of 10 games.
Well, we solved it. Just end the podcast. We're good.
Yep.
No. A lot of stuff stands out to me, man. Honestly, we talked in earlier about the defensive effort against Detroit, the resilience against Columbus. I think both of those things play a factor. And I mean, functionally, Blake Lizotte has played a part. The penalty kill was very bad for a stretch until he returned, and that sort of evened things out in a good way. The fourth line has returned to being a threat. I don't know why those guys all click. We've all asked these questions of the Penguins. They like to bring up, we bring our work boots and our lunch pails and whatever. Fine. I just think it's one of those unexplainable things where Connor Dewar, Noel Acciari, and Blake Lizotte have a really nice chemistry. There's an identity to that line. So that group's been good. The Penguins' top line has been really good. I think they've returned to form. I included some of that in my story. I don't know what the numbers are over the last little while. It's like 35 points in 12 games, something like that. But I mean, they've been dominant, and we've seen that last night, scoring up and down the lineup. Chinakhov, his goal in Detroit stands out for me. You're just getting it from key places. So the strength of the pack is the pack, as Mike Tomlin would like to say. And I would say the strength of what's going on here is that there's been a lot of things going on. What about you?
Man, Mike Tomlin had some quotes.
He was on one last night, huh?
Yeah, this was his chance to really let loose. I think that, and sort of, it felt like a release of energy from him. He's been feeling all of the negativity around him, and he was happy to throw that back a little bit. But keeping it on the Penguins, the numbers for the top line are unbelievable, and that line had some of the worst advanced stats for the Penguins coming in. Like, for whatever reason, Rickard Rakell, Bryan Rust, and Sidney Crosby were not clicking at the level we expect them to before the break, even though individually each of them were doing some good things. Well, since then, it is a totally different story, and they are driving the offense for this team. Crosby has 9 points in this 5-game winning streak. For him, that's pretty pedestrian, but he's looked unbelievable. He is +9 in the winning streak. Rust is +7. Rakell is +5. The top line is combined for 9 goals and 44 shots. They've rattled the post several other times. It feels like they could have more than those 9 goals in 5 games. And they've been on the ice for each one of them has been on the ice for more than 80% of the team's goals.
That seems good.
Carrying play. And this is a unit that we don't necessarily expect to be great offensively, and they're sometimes thrown out against other teams' top lines. Doesn't matter. They are controlling the puck in every opportunity and generating tons of chances and converting on some of them as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Is Evgeni Malkin going to be able to crack this lineup when he comes back this week? Might have to help me scratch him.
I know he didn't make the road trip, but he was skating pretty vigorously with the team in practice on Friday. Yeah, it looks very soon. He kind of had a funny moment joking with reporters afterwards. He didn't speak, but he walked in as we were walking out of the lineup, and he seemed to be in good spirits. I think he's going to make this team even better. But it is kind of funny to think about where he's going to slot in. How do you break up this
King? Come on.
Of Tommy Novak, Anthony Mantha, and Justin Brazeau? Like, what are you?
Hall of Famer coming back. See you, Tommy.
Oh, he's going in that second line center role, I know. But what do you do with Tommy Novak? I mean, who's been quite productive.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you might have an opening third line wing. I think you probably want to let Chinakhov get some time and get established. And there's some nice chemistry with Ben Kindle. Like, I wouldn't mess with that what I saw in Detroit on Saturday, and I want Chinakhov to have an opportunity to get comfortable and get rolling. So I don't know, man. I don't like Rutger McGroarty. I have no problem with healthy scratching him against Columbus. Ville Koivunen, I know he scored against the Blue Jackets. I don't feel like he's owed a lineup spot. McGroarty probably, I was going to say somebody helps you on the fourth line. I'm also not messing with the fourth line.
Definitely not. I'm not touching that line.
Somebody's got to sit. You bring up a good point though, King. I mean, there's just a trickle down there. Like Kevin Hayes isn't getting back in the lineup. I don't know where he fits. Maybe McGroarty goes down. I have no idea. I mean, I'm just spitballing, but I know that I start with Evgeni Malkin's going back as my second line center, and we'll figure it out with Tommy Novak. I'm not really that worried about it, but I'm not in a hurry to get rid of Ben Kindle. I definitely don't want to get rid of Chinakhov right now. Probably figure out, between Novak, Koivunen, and McGroarty, who my best fit is on the wing and that other line, at least for the time being.
Yeah, I think that's the only line I would tweak right now, or that I think makes sense to change some things.
What's that? The third line?
The third line, yes. Yeah, good. Thank you for pointing that out. But Malkin, with the way Brazeau and Mantha have been playing, I am just so excited to see what that second line can produce, because both Mantha and Brazeau are back to their goal-scoring ways. They're showing off that touch around the net in addition to their size. And we know Malkin, even more so than our friend Tommy Novak, is going to be able to get the most out of them and give them those chances to score and really make this top six forward lineup for the Penguins a very dangerous group. But then I completely agree that Kindle and Chinakhov need to continue playing with each other, because I think Chinakhov has shown us what was missing from that third line when it was McGroarty, Koivunen, and Kindle. They didn't have that person who could put the puck away.
Yeah.
Kindle generated chance after chance for his team. The other two guys play with great energy. Really, they controlled the puck for almost all of their shifts, but they kept on not getting good shots off, fanning on shots, hitting the post, firing it right into a goalie's chest. That's not something Chinakhov's going to do. We know that he is in the NHL. He is a first-round pick because of that shot.
Yeah. In Detroit, I asked Dan Muse about, Chinakhov. I said, I know you talked about his shot before, and I don't know if anybody saw the video, but there was quite a reaction to Dan Muse. Like, you could see, he goes, "It's as advertised, huh?" Like, he was really excited, and I don't blame him. Like, well, I guess you liked that trade that Kyle made. But anyway, yes, I want to co-sign everything you're saying, King, and you need a finisher on that line. It hasn't been Koivunen. It hasn't been Rutger. It has been Kindle a little bit, but I like Kindle more as a facilitator and somebody to use his hockey sense. So yeah, Chinakhov's not going anywhere on that line for me. And, if you have to send young guys down because they need to play, to me, that's a good problem to have. I'm happy to do that. And, I don't think I want Rutger or Ville sitting there on the bench for too terribly long. Like, I do want them getting games in. It's a little bit different than a Kevin Hayes type, but yeah, the forward balance looks pretty good right now.
Yeah, and the advanced stats for the Pittsburgh offense are very, very positive. You look at the chances they're generating, they're all way up there. Yeah. Defensively, the advanced stats don't like them as much, but if they play like they did against Detroit, that's going to change soon. One thing I think we have to point out, there's been 12 different goal scorers in this winning streak, 8 players with multiple goals, and 18 players have at least 2 points in that stretch. And we're talking about a stretch without Evgeni Malkin. So,
not going to lie, I'm stealing that from my story, King. That's good research.
Please do. And last thing I want to end on, this team looks fragile in December. Like, the giving up leads, not being able to come back when they did fall behind, that is completely gone. They battled through a really tough game Thursday against Detroit, where they had a 10-minute penalty minute disadvantage. They took 16 minutes of penalties. They did not deserve to take that many. Detroit only had 6. They found a way to win that game anyway in overtime, despite giving up a late tying goal. And then Sunday's game was nothing if not resilient. That's something this team can really build off.
Yeah, I made a face. You covered the Detroit game at home. Like, that was NHL officiating at its worst. Like, what are we doing here? That's a whole separate discussion. But I mean, it's why I sort of said, like, The strength of the pack is the pack. The strength of the streak is all the different things that they've had to encounter during the streak. They've played with leads. They've played defensively. They've been able to score a lot. Their power play has been a weapon. Like, we've been talking for 20 minutes, King, and we really haven't even talked about one of the NHL's best power plays that, again, when they needed some sort of dose of belief in Columbus, Tommy Novak gets a goal. It's been a factor at other times. It was a factor in Chicago. And so they're doing a lot of things that I view during this winning streak as sustainable, as repeatable. Like, as long as they can stay healthy, as long as they can get some reasonable facsimile of goaltending that Tristan Jarry was giving them at the beginning of the year, I really like the direction that this team's going. I'm not pegging them as one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference. They're not one or two, but like, can this team make the playoffs given what we've seen? Yes, they can. And they're seemingly getting better with the Chinakhov addition, the way the fourth line's been playing. You're going to get Evgeni Malkin back this week. The top line's going bonkers. The defensemen have contributed in a very nice way. I like the way the pairings have solidified, the bottom two pairings, that is. So anyway, I'll end on that. I just think there's a lot of very good direction with this club right now. It's been a lot of fun to cover the past two games and keep an eye on.
If you're a Pittsburgh sports fan, you better be enjoying these past few days, because this is about as good as it's going to get in a cold January time, to have the Steelers win a dramatic game and reach the playoffs, and have the Pens ride a 5-game winning streak, have the Pirates actively trying to get better. It's a pretty exciting time in a way that it really hasn't been in a while. So that's going to do it for the Post-Gazette Penguins podcast. Please like and subscribe to the show wherever you're watching or listening to it. We'll be back on this feed pretty much every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday throughout the season. So we hope you'll join us, and please subscribe to post-gazette.com. That's where you're going to get the best of our work. Jason's coverage from this weekend. I'll have a story on the prospects, Will Horkoff and Harrison Brunick at World Juniors. So look out for that tomorrow morning. And there's a lot of Steelers content out there as well. So go on post-gazette.com and check it out. Until next time, thanks for watching and have a great day, Pittsburgh.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.